First to China, where the government is targeting growth of about 7% in 2015. That's what Premier Li said at the start of Parliament's annual session. That figure is lower than the 7.5% set last year, with China's leaders now advocating a new normal of slower expansion. Solange Mougin reports.
Prepare yourselves, this is the new normal. That's what the Chinese premier told lawmakers at their annual National People's Congress, when he announced that China's economy last year grew only 7.4%, the slowest expansion in 24 years. And more of the same is expected in 2015.
The downward pressure on China's economy is intensifying. Deep-seated problems in the country's economic development are becoming more obvious. The difficulties we're facing this year could be even bigger than last year.
In other words, it's less than we expected, but it's not that bad. Even if for the first time since 1998, Beijing missed its GDP target. A mistake they don't want to make again.
It's better to promise less and deliver more, because that's the way to go forward. And I think this is the best way for a People's Bank of China to manage the expectations.
Around 7% growth would be a dreamlike figure for many countries. But for some in China, it's akin to a cold shower. Even if the government has long said a slowdown is inevitable and that they won't take extraordinary measures, such as major government spending, to keep growth in the double digits. Rather, Beijing says a lower outlook gives them more legroom to solve economic problems, such as local government debt, all of which is part of the government's plan to transition from an economy driven by investment projects to rely more on consumer spending and employment, with projections of some 10 million new jobs expected this year.
And for more on this, I'm now joined from London by Rod Wye from Chatham House. Hello, thank you very much indeed for being with us. Now, here in Europe, there are governments that would dream of 7% growth. Why is this figure such a big deal, so to speak, in China?
Well, partly it's because we've got used to this enormous, spectacular rate of growth in China, and any sort of slowing down of that sends sort of jitters, not just through China, but also through the international economy, given the reliance that many people have had on Chinese growth to drive global growth.
Are we seeing the Chinese leadership begin to let go of the idea of propping up the economy with stimulus spending?
I think we're moving into perhaps a more realistic phase. I think this phrase, the new normal, we're going to have to get used to. But the message is that China is going to let the economy develop in a more autonomous way, if you like, without huge government investment, because part of their long-term plan is to move towards more consumer spending and less overall investment.
But this new normal of slower expansion, isn't it a bit of a risk when it comes to possibly triggering social upheaval?
Well, it is, and of course that they do worry about that, and I'm sure that they will increase their spending on social stability and this kind of thing. It's a risk, but it has to be taken. I think if they continue to pour huge amounts into maintaining largely mythical rates of growth, the dangers for the Chinese economy would be greater than accepting that they need to do some reform now.
And the other big topic in the Premier's speech, aside from the economy, was the environment. And he said that environmental laws would be strictly enforced. And a lot of people might say, well, it's about time.
Well, this is the downside of economic growth, and environmental problems are getting more and more difficult and more large in China. And of course, just before the Congress, there was this video that went viral called Under the Dome, talking about Chinese air pollution in China. It's something that affects almost everybody, particularly in the urban areas, and it affects them directly. They can see it happening. And the pressure, I think, is clearly growing on the government to do something. And this also comes out of the sort of lower rates of growth. If you have lower rates of growth, then you won't need so much increase in power generation, which has affected the air pollution so greatly in recent years.
Rod Wye from Chatham House, thank you very much indeed for your time.